The news headlines: 52 women non-governmental organizations benefit from state government's financial support. State judiciary considers possibility of establishing a sexual abuse referral center. And state government commences payment of compensation for property affected by remodeling of roads in Eket. Details of these and other stories in just a moment. Good morning and thanks for joining us on the news. I am Samuel Udofia. 52 women non-governmental organizations have benefited from the state government's financial support. The support was part of government's efforts to reduce poverty among women in the state. Governor Udom Emmanuel, who was the special guest of honor at the event, presented cash to the organizations. Patience John reports that the governor was represented by his deputy, Mr. Moses Ebo.
The women groups drawn from the 3 senatorial districts of the state were given a financial support of 200,000 naira each. Governor Udom Emmanuel said the support, apart from aiming at poverty reduction among women and promoting their socio-economic level, was also to build the capacity of women for the good of the society. Represented by the Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ebo, the governor described the gesture as a fulfillment of some of his campaign promises to run a government that will consider the welfare of women. He advised the beneficiaries to be diligent in the management of the funds, eschew all divided tendencies, and work hard for the development of the state.
In the course of the campaigns, our dear governor, Governor Udom Emmanuel, had given the word of commitment that when elected into office, his administration will facilitate means of assisting different sectors of our local economy to access financial aid and facilitate them to get further. I think what we've seen during the past 100 days gives credence to this fact and commitment by the government.
The Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Welfare, Dr. Glory Ede, commended the governor for his vision to industrialize the state through the involvement of the private sector and for releasing funds for the event. Dr. Ede said the yearly event will also accommodate other NGOs which are not included in current batch. The Commissioner also thanked the wife of the governor, Mrs. Martha Udom Emmanuel, whom she noted has played a pivotal role in the execution of women programs.
His Excellency graciously gave approval for this program to be organized. This has led President to his assertion that he is running an all-inclusive government.
Representatives of some NGOs expressed gratitude to the state government for having the interest of women and promised the support of women to the Udom's administration.
Don't remember that the money is going to be invested on, and we are going to judiciously bring back an answer to you very soon. And we promise that all the women are standing. Iran is safe.
Patience John reporting.
The possibility of establishing a sexual abuse referral center is being considered in the state judiciary. The State Acting Chief Judge, Justice Stephen Okon, disclosed this during the formal opening of a 3-day retreat for Akwa Ibom Justice Sector Reform Team. The report is presented in our studios.
The Acting Chief Judge stated that the initiative was informed by the prevalence of sexual crimes in the state, particularly against children. According to Justice Stephen Okon, a committee headed by Justice Teresa Obot has been set up to that effect, adding that the duty of the committee is to examine the modalities, implications and the advantages of such a center in the prevention and treatment of victims, as well as investigation and prosecution of persons accused of sexual offenses in the state. The Chief Judge, while welcoming the Justice for All team to Akwa Ibom State, also spoke of innovations in Akwa Ibom State Judiciary directed at enhancing justice delivery.
Among the innovations in Akwa Ibom State to enhance justice delivery and the establishment of the community courts in all the judicial divisions in the states at the High Court and magisterial levels, the Akwa Ibom multi-door courthouse, and the appointment of lawyers as chairman of the customary courts.
The Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Barrister Uwemode Monwoko, observed that the activities of the Justice Sector Reform Team is critical to the administration of justice in the state. He called on chairmen and members of the 4 branches of the Nigerian Bar Association in the state to uphold the ethics of their profession, be committed as members in the temple of justice, not only to their clients but to God.
For every injustice that is created in the system, there is a direct human victim, and that human victim is a creation of God. And at the end of the day, we are all answerable to Him.
Goodwill messages were received from the representatives of the National Program Manager, Justice for All, Dr. Bob Arnott, and the representative of the Commissioner for Women Affairs, Dr. Gloria Edith. Meanwhile, Barrister Philip Anselmeyo of Salem Attorneys has been sworn in as notary public. The state acting chief judge who gave him the oath of office charged him to do justice to all and sundry. Responding, Barrister Anselmeyo pledged to be bound by the oath of his office at all times.
The Akwa Ibom State Government has commenced payment of compensation to those whose property are affected in the remodeling and construction of roads in Eket. The Commissioner for Works, Mr. Ephraim Iyangayen, who supervised the payment, said the state government is interested in ensuring that the funds are disbursed to only the affected persons. Ebuka Okafo reports that the process was smooth as all affected persons were paid.
Commissioner for Works, Mr. Ephraim Iyangayen, who said there has been a widespread speculations that state government is playing pranks with the project, emphasized that state government has long awarded contracts for the project. The Commissioner appealed to the people to do away with any interest that may derail the project. He recalled that the contractor has already been mobilized, adding that state government's vision is to make Eket a modern city.
We decided that for the compensation to be paid and for government to have the right of way and subsequently hand over to the contractor to avoid delays, everyone whose property is affected that will be paid will have to meet certain minimum conditions. They are very simple. You, the owner of the property, will show up. You must show up with a witness.
Ebuka Okafo reporting.
The Permanent Secretary, Budget Office and Acting Chairman, Internal Revenue Service, Pastor Nicholas Ekarika, says the present tax regime being implemented in the state is not intended to inflict pain on taxpayers. Pastor Ekarika stated this in an AKBC television panel discussion program, Discuss. Other panelists were the Chairman, Joint Public Service Negotiating Council, Comrade Udeme Atong, a tax consultant, Mr. Akban Umo, and the Director, Road Tax, Mr. Inyobong Silas. The rest of the story is presented in our studios.
Pastor Karika said the new tax regime being implemented now was the federal government tax law of 2011 targeting at high-income earners. He said the new law is being carried out now because of a fall in the national revenue from petroleum, adding that government at all levels are now looking inwards to generate revenue. Pastor Karika, who spoke on the essence of paying tax, said an individual who pays tax needs to be given tax clearance to enable such individual engage in transaction and obtain building plans approval.
Now, in Akwa Ibom State, we are not operating in an isolation. We are linked to Joint Tax Board. Joint Tax Board is a board that comprises all the chairmen of all states revenue services, and it is chaired by the chairman of Federal Inland Revenue.
The chairman of Akwa Ibom State Joint Public Service Negotiating Council, Comrade Udeme Otong, said it was wrong for the state to jump into implementing a federal government tax law without consulting the organized labor. He also queried why tax law of 2011 was brought in even after the 2015 budget of Akwa Ibom State has been passed without the said tax. Comrade Otong said inasmuch as workers are not objecting to the idea of paying tax, government should use the tax paid to provide pipe-borne water to all the communities and provide good access routes.
In this principle, we don't say that civil servants should not pay tax, but there should have been a principle that govern this payment of tax. We are saying that there should be equity. What do we mean by equity in paying tax? Is the tax you are collecting almost equivalent to what you are giving it out? There should be certainty. Certainty is what? Have we sat down to discuss when are you collecting this tax? You are dealing with human beings. Before now, people have set their own target for the year. And you know, in government, if it was a circular to increase salary structure, it would have been a struggle with government and the labor. But now we just sat down and saw a letter, circular, and they want to implement, and this is a federal circular.
The consultant on tax matters, Mr. Akpanumo, stressed the need for churches to pay tax, especially those that own schools, hospitals, functional printing press, and run other businesses. Speaking on the mode of the tax collection, Mr. Omo said government has banned the blocking of roads for the purpose of tax collection in order not to embarrass members of the public.
In tax practice, we have what we call tax education. We have sensitization of the taxpayers. But then, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. The law is in place. As he rightly said, if it was increasing salaries, they would have been very happy. But in this issue, you realize that this tax table has been there, and it is the Joint Tax Board that approved the deductions. And the Federal Revenue is established at 2007 had made it completely clear that the state cannot impose tax, they can only collect. This law has been made by Federal National Assembly, signed into law by the President, to be implemented by the 36 states of the Federation. So what the state should do, must do, is to collect based on the law.
Akwa Ibom State joins the rest of the world to commemorate this year's International Day of the Girl Child in a moment. Stay with us.
Akwa Ibomites, rise to the faith of greatness. Rise to the faith that with God all things are possible. Rise to the faith that as a people we can move beyond biases, ethnicity, religion, and gender. Rise to togetherness. Rise to chart a new course for us, our children, and a generation of Akwa Ibomites unborn. Hold fast the confession of our hope that without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. Arise to the faith that Akwa Ibom was created to be great.
I arise to the faith that Akwa Ibom is destined to be great.
I am an Akwa Ibomite.
And I arise to the faith of greatness.
Metakanda, Akwa Ibomites, Idakeda.
Akwa Ibom, Dakada.
You're still watching AKBC AM News, and I'm Samuel Udofia. Issues affecting the well-being of girl-child dominated discussions as Akwa Ibom State joined the rest of the world to commemorate this year's International Day of the Girl Child. Put together by Kemsi Brown Concept Nigeria Limited, the event, which took place at the Ibom E-Library, IBB Way, Uyo, was attended by students of some selected secondary schools in Uyo. Etienne Oibaha was there.
The International Day of the Girl Child is celebrated annually on October 11 to highlight issues concerning the gender inequality facing young girls. This year's theme was the power of the adolescent girl, Vision for 2030. the organizers of the event, and the Chief Executive Officer of MC Brown Concept Nigeria Limited, Ms. Ukeme Brownson, said she will continue to work towards promoting the well-being of a female child, noting that a girl child has limitless potentials. Ms. Brownson applauded the state government for formulating policies and programs aimed at enhancing the dignity of a child, describing the implementation of the Child Rights Law and the free and compulsory education as the right steps in the right direction. She expressed appreciation to Governor Udom Emmanuel and the Ministry of Education for approving the hosting of the celebration. MC Brown Concept Nigeria Limited, she said, offers environmental and water resource services, household waste disposal, industrial cleaning, fumigation, and geophysical services.
I decided to do something for the girls, teenagers between the ages of 13 and 19. And since I didn't really have advisors as a young person, I decided to act as an ambassador for the young ones to advise them on their career path.
Different speakers whose message is centered on the power of the adolescent girl, Vision for 2030, listed inequalities in secondary education, protection issues, marginalization, sexual abuse, and molestation as some factors militating against the future of the girl child. The speakers, Mrs. Maria Stella Mpong, Mrs. Inyebon Sada of Christ Embassy International Uyo, Mrs. Immaculate Abasi of Oforukwa Secondary School Uyo, and Mrs. Patricia Ujaba of Tony Kutus Motor Limited, called for access to education, empowerment, better future, and policies that will protect the girl child from anything that could mar her progress. They said time has come for young girls to rise to the fate of greatness and take up responsibility concerning their future, adding that investing in adolescent girl would have a formidable effect to create a better world by 2030.
So say no to everything that will make you not be who you ought to be in the future. You are a unique expression of a divine idea. Girls, check yourself, train yourself, build up yourself. We get to tell you that come 15 years from now, those inequalities should not be there.
The event featured debate, comedy, and cultural dance by students, while some students who spoke with AKBC 45 News said they were proud to be celebrated as a girl.
I'm happy that I was born as a girl. I'm very, very excited to be a girl child. I mean, this is a privilege.
Etienne Oibanga reporting.
The state chapter of the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, NAPS, Monday joined her counterparts nationwide to celebrate the 2015 NAPS Day. The celebration featured cultural display and march past by students, teachers, and proprietors of schools, while the Commissioner for Education, Mr. Anyeka Nakman, reviewed the parade. Yaino Paul takes us there.
NAPS Day celebration is a day set aside nationally to celebrate proprietors of private schools for their contributions to the growth of education in the country. During this year's celebration at Ibom Hall Grounds, Uyo, private schools including Peculiar Nursery and Primary School, Ikbaisong Primary and Nursery School, and Mary Prime College participated in March Past. Others that marched were Fulga International Schools, Heritage College, and Redemption Academy. An interesting part of the March Past was that while some schools did their best to win prizes, some danced past, some ran, while a lot more others raised their hands above 90 degrees, all in the name of marching. What also caught the eye, though, were beautiful outing attires and costumes worn by different schools that participated in the March Past. Another thing of interest was different styles of salutes by schools, which included praying, acrobatic, and somersault.
And that is a greater height. The new apostolic
After the march passed, the cultural display followed, while a guest comedian, Boy Oh Boy, thrilled the spectators. Addressing the gathering, the Commissioner for Education, Mr. Aniek Anakpan, said he was impressed with the turnout of members of NAPS at the event, noting that sanity has returned to the association. Represented by the Special Assistant to the Governor on Education Monitoring, the Commissioner urged all private schools to work hard to meet the benchmark set for excellent academic attainment. He commended them for their patriotic contributions to the education system and promised the continuous collaboration of government.
A good number of you have established schools that will stand the test of time with state-of-the-art facilities and qualified staff. You can compete favorably with schools in other climes.
The state president of NAPS, Mr. Uduak Etu, said the day is always to celebrate those that want the best for the education system, the proprietors of private schools for having the interest of the nation at heart.
After today's celebration, it's like asking us to go back to the drawing board to say 1 year has passed. What is in the company the next year?
At the end of the celebration, Tower of Ivory schools came first in March past in the nursery and primary schools category, followed by Ideal Schools Eket, while Nelson Nursery and Primary Schools came third. In the secondary schools category, Rayfield Schools came first, All-Weather Secondary School took second, and National High School took the third position. In the cultural dance, Success Nursery and Primary Schools, Kings and Queens, as well as Uncle James International School took first, second, and third positions. At the Arbon Commercial Secondary School clinched the first position, Rayfield followed, while Lawson Schools came third. Iyageno Paul reporting.
The Apostolic Church, Ikorobiotai District annual Sunday School Rally with the theme, Come and Let Us Walk in the Light of the Lord, has been held. The program, aimed at encouraging the Sunday school students study the scriptures, featured Bible quiz competition, recitations and songs. Once again, Iyageno Paul completes the story.
The rally started with a march past by Ntaganyang Assembly, High Tension, Ikorobiotai, Usong Bakara, Ikodekang, and the Taidong assemblies that make up the Ikorobiotai district. What followed the march past were special voices rendition, global update, minister at youth, discussion, gospel melody, John's Portrait of Christ, and the Apostolic Church motto from 1986 to 2015.
John portrayed Christ as the Son of Man. John chapter 2 verse 1 to 4. And it says, on the third day there was a marriage at Cana in Galilee.
Two people are mentioned in that portion, truth and mercy, but I will speak on the first part called truth.
Other activities of the day were Search the Scriptures, which one person in each assembly was called out to participate, and the Bible quiz drawn from the books of Mark and Esther.
When the Pharisees blamed Jesus for eating and drinking with the tax collectors and sinners, what was Jesus' comment?
The Son of Man did not come for the righteous, came for the sinners.
Earlier, the area superintendent, Apostle Gideon Akwabio, in an exhortation, had admonished the faithful not to depart from the way of the Lord, stressing the need for the faithful to read the scriptures always.
Apostle Okpabio, who preached on the theme of the rally, "Come and let us walk in the light of God," said those who truly serve God can never be put to shame, and advised Christians to have a thankful heart towards their Creator.
The house of Jacob, the children of Israel, are a people that will covenanted with Christ right from the time of their father Abraham, even Jacob.
The district Sunday school teacher, Elder Edirokon, said the journey of gathering the assemblies for the rally was rough, and appreciated God for the successes recorded each year of the program. Elder Okon said this year's theme of the rally conveys the weeping call for Christians to shun division, selfishness, pull-down syndrome, and live up to the responsibility of serving Christ in spirit and in truth.
If you decide to come to Him, He will remove the darkness of sin from your life. Allow Christ to shine into your life. Let Christ shine so that you may not suffer in darkness.
At the end of the rally, Ntagiyang took first in March past, Usong Bakara second, and Dikorobi Otai third. In Search the Scriptures, Usong Bakara came up, followed by Ikorobi Otai, while High Tension bagged the third position. In the 2015 quiz competition, Ikorobi Otai was the champion, High Tension seconded, and Ikorekang took the third position. Consolation prizes were given to those who participated in the competition. Eyagenopo reporting.
Screening of ministerial nominees commenced on the floors of the Red Chambers. So far, 10 nominees have been screened, including Senator Udoma Udoma. Mercy Akere tells us more about this and other stories in our national news.
The Nigerian Senate has commenced the screening of ministerial nominees sent to the upper chambers by President Muhammadu Buhari. So far, nominees screened include Senator Udoma Udoma, Dr. Osage Hanire, Mr. Bonaya Onu, Chief Audu Ogbe, Mr. Kayode Fayemi, Abdurrahman Danbazal, Lai Muhammad, Amina Muhammad, Suleiman Adam, and Jibril Ibrahim. Others are to be screened on the floors of the upper chambers on Wednesday, October 14 by 10 a.m. During the screening, Senator Udoma Udoma, who has been a former Security Exchange Commission boss and chairman of the Union Bank of Nigeria, spoke on investment and Nigeria economy and said the private sector should be explored so as to improve the Nigerian economy. Meanwhile, the Senate has unveiled the second batch of ministerial nominees sent in by President Buhari. The second batch, made up of 16 nominees, brings the total number of ministerial nominees to 37. In another development, the Election Petition Tribunal in Kwara State has upheld the elections of Dr. Bukola Saraki as senator representing Kwara Central Senatorial District. The federal government has released 56 billion naira towards the rehabilitation of victims and places ravaged by insurgency in the northeastern part of the country. According to the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Alhaji Muhammad Sani Sidi, 53 billion naira is for the Victim Support Fund, while 3 billion naira is for the Presidential Initiative in the Northeast. According to NEMA, people displaced as a result of the Boko Haram insurgency in the Northeast are about 2 million, with 254 schools destroyed. Amnesty International has opened a new office in Nigeria as part of the institution's commitment to increase the impact of human rights and global rights organization in the country. Amnesty International has said it intends to mobilize civil societies and activists across Nigeria and will be campaigning on a wide range of issues in Nigeria, including violations committed by military and other security forces, use of torture, forced eviction, and other acts that infringe on people's rights. The British government has pledged to support Nigeria's developmental programs with a financial commitment of about 65 billion naira. According to the UK's Minister for Africa, Grant Shapps, who is in Nigeria on an official visit, the UK would assist Nigeria on anti-corruption capacity building and investigative support, including assessing how the UK could invest in Nigeria's solar energy market so as to provide solution to the country's electricity challenge. The minister said he was determined to ensure that Britain built its relationship with Nigeria by sharing its skills, knowledge and expertise of developmental issues, as well as Britain's cooperation against Boko Haram. UK's Minister for Africa, Grant Shapps' visit is a follow-up on the series of meetings between UK's Prime Minister David Cameron and President Muhammadu Buhari, most recently at the United Nations General Assembly.
You can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org or follow us on Twitter at AKBC45 or on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. And now to end the news, the top stories. 52 women non-organizations have received government financial support. The women organizations were given 200,000 naira each to boost their socio-economic status. We also brought you a report that the state government has commenced the payment of compensation for property affected by remodeling of roads in Eket local government area. That's our package. Thanks for watching and have a great Wednesday. Good morning.